So now we'll talk about how to see the contents or how to know what are the processes which are running on Mac OS. So this would be specifically for Mac operating system. So to see the processes, you can make use of different options rather to check out what different processes are running. So first thing probably could be you can make use of a command terminal or CMD kind of terminal to get list of say the processes running. So let us say if let me share the screen, and if I take process this one, so if I write their PS, so if I write man PS, as this particular Mac is having what you can call it as a kernel based on Unix or XNU kernel. So the process control block is implemented using proc structure only, or struct proc only in the kernel. And now if at all I want to see the processes, so most of the commands that you will see here would be very similar to what we used to see or use it in Linux, yeah, or either of the flavor. So if I write man ps, it will let me know that this gives me process status. So if we go below the process states, if at all we have to address, then there would be some change with respect to what we saw in Windows and what we would be seeing into Linux, or what we already saw in Linux. So these are the process states rather in which your process can be into. So this would be a state which talks about that the process is idle. That means it may be sleeping for longer than about 20 seconds. R marks as runnable process. S sleeping less than about 20 seconds. T stop process. U uninterruptible wait. And lastly Z marks as uh, dead process or zombie state. And there can be additional characters also used. Now to display this, so if I simply write PS, okay. Now this PS will let me know what are the different processes running. Say for example, if I see for the current terminal it is saying, so if I write PS dash say A, these all are say probably like processes which are running on my machine. So along with the different process names and so on, all details should be shown there. Correct. So like this is a command. Okay, and this is a PID. So PID is shown there respectively. Now, to get this information about a process, if at all, like the command that I used here is uh, PS, correct? Similarly, if at all we want to display these processes, probably maybe using some other option, like if I use, say, for example, PS AUX. Sorry, I wrote in front PS AUX. Okay, so you will see more details added there as in a process perspective. If we go up and try to see, you would be seeing that the processes are shown along with rather their states as well. So you can see that there is S, capital S, small s, and so on. Everything is shown there. Correct. So we applied PH-AVX. So it tells you who is the user, what is the PID, how much percentage of CPU is used, memory is used, and so some other parameters also added there with along with the state. Okay, what is the state exactly, whether it is running or so on. So I used AUX. A shows for all users. U displays detailed information like user, CPU usage, and so on. And X includes background processes too. Correct. Now, if at all we want to separate it out, say if I write PS AUX, and let us say we'll start say age. Let us see if we can get information about it. Grep age. Correct. Now you will see that like when I applied the command grep age, ultimately it is trying to show me the processes that are running there as an output perspective. So ps-avx. So we applied here grep age. So it is showing me the services which are running there. So because of AVX, all things are shown. If I write ps dash psa grep age, then it shows me that there is a process which is running like age. Now it is in sleeping mode. I am not using anything there. Correct. Now suppose if I go here and slide model. Suppose if I type this, it would be showing me this slide model search which was applied by me. And if I go to terminal now, if I check, still you will be seeing, because we are running that in running at the same time. But now as we are not currently working with that process, it is showing me as S. Now, if at all we want to see the real-time process monitoring, then we can make use of command called top. So top command provides you real-time view of system processes at runtime. What are the processes which are running? This, like, as I am using Zoom now currently, so the things are shown there. Like the Zoom is high priority using huge amount of CPU. Server is also running, kernel, and so on. Like most of the things are running. Now, like if I want to sort it with respect to say the CPU usage, then I can write say top dash O CPU. Now it will sort it with respect to usage of CPU. Correct. By default, it was also doing the similar thing. Right. Now, there are other options as well, but in that case, you may have to install some of the tools that would be required there. Now, other mechanism would be like making use of say activity monitor. So if I go to activity monitor, this is activity monitor, correct? And the processes would be added there. So if I go to CPU memory, say for example, you can see that there is a PID. So if I sort this PID, then process 0, process 1, and so on. And then PIDs are added there along with the process details. Correct. And this is how rather the processes can be seen. Now, if at all I want to specifically say no list of open files and processes. So if I write on the terminal lsof command rather, clear the screen, and if I write lsof, so this shows me this output of lsof command. And this lsof command shows processes that have the files which are opened by it respectively. So application may be different. So as when we talked about Windows, we were talking about different handles. Correct. When we talk about read or write system call, you must have seen that the file handle is used. The file may be opened by it, the file handle will be added. So that kind of resources, if at all we want to specifically see with respect to the show all open files by processes, then we can make use of lsof command. Similarly, like if we want, for example, lsof, we don't know whether how many of the services are using say particular port. If I write say dash I, and if I write say colon 8080. Now, currently, we are not using either of the process, or either of the process is not using the port, which is 8080. But if we go up and let us say, when we say LSOF, okay, with respect to the port, let us write place. So let us see if we can see either of the process which is running. So you can see that it is mostly using dir to be raised, cwd, and so on. So let us see, like if we can see any of the process which is running, okay, in different mode as an LSO perspective. So currently, I don't see any of them running with respect to the particular port rather. But if you come up with an application, you definitely can make use of it by writing a web-based application, run it through localhost, and then you try to check with the port number. the information about processes running with a specific file port. For example, port 8080. Right. Similarly, like if at all we want to search for the files, so like for example, if I write PSAUX and if I write grep age, you can see like it is showing me all processes with which age is using actually to run. So what we saw was we can make use of PS, okay, to for quick process list. We can make use of top real-time monitoring. We can make use of activity monitor as well for GUI users, and we also saw LSOF. So now if you want to delete or end a task, end a process, then you can make use of kill. Okay, if I write kill command, so man kill. So this process, this particular command can be used to terminate or signal a process. So kill all, PK kill. If at all you want to stop the processes, then you can make use of this command. Further to this, if we have to talk about the process control block used by a particular OS like Mac, okay. Now the way that we saw that there is a specific data structure used by Windows. Similarly here, Mac operating system, which is based on Unix or XNU kernel, this process control block is implemented using proc structure. Correct. And this stores in key information that is needed for process management, scheduling, and resource management or resource allocation. So key components of this Mac OS struct proc is process identification information, the way that we saw with Windows, with the Linux, and so on. Mac also contains information about process ID, PID, which is a unique identifier, parents process ID, UID and group ID also can be shown, identifier to be as an owner of the process and so on. So also it can contain information about session. Process name also would be added there as an executable process. Okay, if at all it is there, executable program at all there. Process state can be there, like for example, it could be SIDL, created but not started, SRun, running or ready to start, or ready to run, sleep, sleeping, waiting for an event, stopped, suspended, zombie, and so on. So it also can contain information about CPU time used, CPU time, CPU scheduling priorities, and so on. It also can contain information about memory, like when we say stack and heap pointers, page table entries. Similarly, with respect to files, open file descriptors, right, in current working directories, and further towards last thing, like it can contain information about security and privileges too. And this is how rather you can display processes in the Mac.